Welcome to Slope Reliability, the show where we learn about reliability, observability, and resilience one day at a time. I'm your host, Stephen Townsend. Welcome back to Slope Reliability. I'm Stephen Townsend, and this is the show where we learn about reliability, observability, and now we're touching on resilience, one episode at a time. Today, I'm joined by Trent Hornibrook, who is an AWS cloud architect and engineering leader with over 20 years experience designing and building secure cloud solutions for organizations like catch.com.au, Sportsbet, Seek, and realestate.com.au. Trent is an AWS community builder and regular speaker at the AWS user group meetup. Trent's worked on various different roles throughout his career journey, from Solaris system administration to MySQL database administration, systems administration where Puppet and Chef were the tools, running application development teams in China, and leading AWS cloud migrations. How are you today, Trent?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, it's nice and sunny outside. It's a good day. It's the end of the week. So going good. How about you? How are you going?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm halfway through my workday. It's a Friday. Can't wait to have a nice, relaxing weekend. Can you remind me, what city are you in? Where are you based?
In Melbourne. In Melbourne.
Melbourne.
So yeah, it's going to be 30s today, so it's going to be quite nice.
So we caught up probably 3 weeks ago now, maybe, or 3 or 4 weeks. It's been a while because of scheduling these things, and takes a bit of time, right? And you told me a story about your first experience on call, and I thought it was fascinating. Would you be able to share that story again?
Yeah, so I am pretty old. Even though sometimes I feel old. I can't. I need a lot of sleep. My back gets sore, so it's quite old. But some people still think I'm quite young. So a while ago, I used to work for a company, realestate.com.au. I joined there in about 2008. So this was pre-cloud. So yeah, the timestamp, I think AWS had just launched, just in one region. It was all ephemeral EC2 and S3, and that was really it. REA Group, so realestate.com.au, were running on-prem infrastructure into data centers. And so I just joined. The tech stack at REA was Perl, MySQL backend, and NetApp storage for shared storage. So realestate.com.au, there's really two sides to the marketplace. You go there in Australia, predominantly in Australia, to go there to find a property that you want to buy or rent in. And then the other side of the marketplace is agents. They will upload stock onto the website. So yeah, I was quite new to the industry at that point in time. I joined the site operations team, so it was a systems administrator type role, a Linux sysad role. And the way that the website ran and was monitored was through a set of Nagios checks. So there was 40 odd servers in data center. There was a single Nagios instance, and it was doing like a HTTP check. And the other observability was cacti graphs, but it was all pretty limited. And there was an on-call schedule. And with that, there was a analog pager that you got given to when you were on call, and you got given a laptop. So this is actually back when people had desktops in the office. You're full office bound. And so if you're on call, you got given this corporate laptop and a pager, and it was good luck. And so it was a really, really strange environment. The team was about 10 people. But this pager, it was notorious that it would go off every night. So I joined after the first month. I went on call, and then at midnight, pager goes off. 1 a.m. pager goes off. 2 a.m. pager goes off. It was just an absolute mess. So I feel like I didn't know what to do. So I was trying to triage, and then I realized that there was so much noise about these pager alarms. So for instance, REA Group were checking disk space usage. Okay, 80% disk space usage, let's set an alarm at 2 a.m. Or memory usage, an alarm at 3 a.m. And it was just all noise, and it wasn't really a value. So there's a rotation every 6 weeks. I was on call. The first experience was, is this normal? The second rotation was, okay, this is starting to get a bit old. So after that second rotation, I was speaking to my peer group. Is this normal? Can we do something about these alarms? I just can't sleep. It's not a good experience. And the strange thing was that my peer group at the time were like, no, don't leave these. We need to make sure the website's working. People, after going out on a drinks on a Friday night, might be looking for property at 3 a.m. It just, yeah. So I reflected on that, and then I'm like, all right, no, I'm just going to do something about this because the alarm just doesn't mean anything. So I ended up making some changes to rip out a lot of that monitoring. Rather, not rip out the monitoring, but rip out the alerting side of that monitoring. So we're still doing these checks, but only alarm for things that are of importance. And I said to my peer group, I made these changes. What do you think? And it was strange. I got a lot of pushback from my peers. They did not really support me in the change that I made. So clearly there had been some big outages at REA Group prior to me joining. And the exec team were like, no, you guys just need to make sure things are working. We can't afford outage. So there's clearly a cultural, weird cultural vibe within the team that we just can't change things. We're not feeling empowered to be able to change things. But anyway, I made the change. I'm like, all right, well, it's kind of too late now. And then, the subsequent rotation, I think that my peer group, well, then, this is actually a positive thing. The world didn't burn down. The website was still working. We're starting to really focus on what's important as opposed to just annoying people, waking them up at night. After a period of time and through this acceptance, this became a bit of folklore in the early days of REA Group with the CTO, Rich Donnell, who's one of my mentors. He then recounted this story to his peer group, and he shared this story a few times throughout the industry around having team members that feel empowered to be able to make change. And as long as there are some guardrails around that change, as long as you empower your team to be able to make a change, and if it is generally right, then that should be celebrated as opposed to be frowned upon. Yeah, it was such a bizarre experience. How my peer group were very unsupportive initially, just purely from fear of change or fear of getting into trouble if things broke. Yeah, so then I got older, I moved on to different roles, and I want to caveat that this was well before the Google SRE book, which really defined what SLOs and SLAs and good practice around site reliability should look like. But ultimately, this is where I was coming from at that point in time was, let's just focus on things that matter. Is the website working? We've built this resilient system. So you've got like 40 application servers that are serving traffic. If one fails and your customers aren't affected, then why should we wake up people at 3 a.m? We should really care about what the customer experience is experiencing. You're building a service level against your customer experience. So then let's alarm against against that experience or against the violations of that experience. And then use that resilience that you baked into your system to your advantage as opposed to punishing people for trying to make things resilient. And so I've tried to take that lesson to other workplaces that I've worked at. So I joined Catch. I ran the platform engineering team at Catch. And that was my big philosophy. You've got to be on call because this is our service level. But ultimately, let's bake in the resilience and then only alarm on things that matter whenever things have failed or are almost certainly likely to fail. But don't be too clever. But don't try and over optimize. Just do what's important. And ultimately, like, we're not in healthcare. We're as Catch, we're servicing businesses, and no one really was buying product at 3 a.m, or no one was really looking for property at realestate.com that you at 2 a.m. So what is really the business impact if things do fail? I think just having that lens and feeling empowered to be able to make the right decisions is what's important.
There's so many good lessons in that. I think I'm fully of, even today, we have the Google book and we understand, well, with various levels of confusion, service level objectives. And I mean, for me, one of the big wins with that whole concept is that traditionally we've alerted on technical signals. Those technical signals can have nothing to do with whether the business is running fine or the customers are happy. And so you're getting away from that and focusing on what matters. But even if you don't do SLOs, because I've seen situations where it is hard, we're getting true SLOs to find, just focusing on the stuff that matters is such a good win. And the fact that you were doing it in 2008 is just awesome.
Yeah, I found at Catch that it sometimes can be hard to identify who ultimately owns the service level. And so, as opposed, when you can't find like a business or a product stakeholder that can define what the SLO should be, and then corresponding what you mean, what it means for your resiliency, how you architect, and so on. Just make a really good judgment. So the Catch example is, so Catch, online retailer similar to Amazon.com. There's really two parts to Catch. So there's the part where you go to the website, you order, you check out, and so on. And then the other part is the logistics system. So you've got all of these robots that hold the stock for the first party products that Catch has bought, and then we'll do order fulfillment off the stock systems. So for the website, being able to take an order, that's quite critical. It needs to be running 24/7. But in the logistics system, the logistics hours are like 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if things are not working at 4 p.m. for the logistics systems, it doesn't matter. So you might not. So in my experience, it was really difficult to get a business stakeholder to say this is what the SLO was. So making good judgment around, well, I believe it's this. Let's just start with this SLO period for the logistics systems, and let's just do this for the website experience based on good judgment. I think that's in the absence of having something specific, that you just making those judgments, but not trying to over optimize is what's important.
Mm. So you gave that example of, you might get woken up in the morning at 3 a.m. for the disk is 80% full, those kinds of things. Obviously, that's not a great thing to wake up for and be alerted on.
No.
But you can, but I'm assuming you can set up, ideally you want to set up some kind of non-urgent alerting, which basically, so you get a report in the morning saying, oh, by the way, these things are running out of disk space. You probably want to sort that in the next couple of weeks or something. Is that an approach you would use or not?
Yeah, I guess pre-cloud, yeah, definitely. So I'm trying to recall. Yeah, we at realestate.com we're funneling the alarms to an IRC channel. This is pre-Slack. It definitely helps data and pager alarms to an on-call pager. So you're still getting your feed of what the monitoring system is picking up through your chat channels that you can pick up the next day, but you're only disrupting people out of hours by that pager system. So that was that was the approach. Yeah.
Okay, so you still had it all in the chat. It just went, we woke up at 3 a.m. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. On the back of that, like I found really interesting behavior, because you get this pager alarm, like, oh, this looks like it's fine, and you just be silencing this pager alarm because you're almost certain to assume that it's just noise and not signal. So, and then it just really devalues and introduces a risk of missing that critical event that does occur that you need to take action upon. So yeah, it's really critical to balance that signal to noise ratio in any type of on-call system.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. It trains you to not you're training yourself not to care about it, and then you obviously miss the major thing. From a lesser degree, I remember years ago I was working in a place that had New Relic set up, and it would send these automated like roll-ups of all these different things, and there were so many of these alerts that are coming through about. I began to just ignore them entirely, and I actually unsubscribed because it's like, this is of no value to me. I'm not going to act on anything. I think, that really annoys me. I think when you set up these expensive enterprise observability tools, but you don't set them up, you just let the default things do default things. What a waste of time. I think you really got to be precise about these are the things that matter, and we're going to craft it around that.
Yeah, like I'm really an advocate for as much information to be able to diagnose a problem, but you only want to limit the signal that you get. There's also another side effect, another observation that I made, in that some mature organizations will have a post-incident review process of an incident that does occur. So then what can be quite common is that you do this all right, and then inherently in action is like, all right, let's just set up more monitoring, which can be quite dangerous, because you can introduce all this extra monitoring and alarming for the things that might not be of importance as well. So, well, PIRs, I'm a big supporter of like a post-incident review process. I think it's very important to look at like your actions that you want to come out of your post-incident review, and only focus on things that genuinely matter, as opposed to the kind of the easy path of let's just add some more monitoring so prevent this from occurring. It's important to have embrace failure culture and not try and over alert the things and try and prevent things from occurring. What's more important is when things do occur is how you can respond. Do you have the knowledge, skill set, and capability to be able to respond quickly?
I have struggled. I think that as time is going on and the systems, when I say system, I mean not just tech, but the people as well, and the organizations and structures around it are getting so complicated that the probability that the situation that caused an incident to occur once happening exactly the same way again is almost nil. So setting up another alert, it just becomes technical debt and noise, and it's not the way to go, right?
Yeah, definitely not. I think the ultimately, like in going down the incident management path. So there's really the two key metrics you want to look at, like time to detect, time to recover. So if you got the question I ask whenever there's an incident is get a timeline of events and then identify what the detection time was, and then it's like do we have a detection problem? If you got a detection problem, then maybe you've got some observability gaps, and you probably maybe you don't do some checks based on your observability is not customer centric. So that could be one thing. And then if you once you know that there's an incident and then you take action, and then that's your recovery time period. And then the question I sometimes have is do we have a recovery problem? And a recovery problem is generally like knowledge. Like, do I know how the things work? Do I know how to restore service? Like, is there a run book? Is there a build pipeline that's really safe and easy to execute and quite quick? And so if I've got a detection issue, then maybe my monitoring or observability is not set up well, or maybe there's some gaps there. And if I've got a recovery gap, then maybe I have some knowledge gaps, or maybe just the underpinning systems are not healthy. So focusing what of one of those two problems, or maybe if then how can I solve that problem as opposed to just adding some more monitoring? I don't know if that's my general view of incident management, and that's a completely separate topic and a quite detailed topic. Yeah.
So I guess that I could say if you find out about an incident because your customers are raising tickets, then it's probably a gap in your observability. Yeah. But if you did find out about it and it just took a long time to resolve it, it could be so many other things that could be more valuable to invest in.
Yeah. But then ultimately, is my system, is it like a critical system? So I take the catch example. If the website was not functioning, catch can take orders, and so that's critical. But if the logistics system wasn't working, then there's definitely impact to people within a warehouse being able to pick and pack stock. But the impact of that occurring is far less than catch being able to take money, because if catch can take money, that's disastrous for the business. But if you can't pick stock, then maybe you can go back to your individual customer and say, hey, our stocks, we can't find this stock, or it's going to take us longer to fulfill your order for you. And then you can kind of manage the customer on a one-to-one basis, so that you don't have that level of business risk, as opposed to being completely down for the customer website.
The other thing it's really interesting and probably a bit challenging to unpack is that when you had that first role, and you said that there was like a sort of culture of a little bit of fear, that there was lots of things set up because obviously something had gone on in the past. Do you know why that culture was there in the first place, and how, and was it changed over time?
So I don't know why. I can theorize that it was a really weird, really interesting time for REA Group prior to when I joined. So if I recall back, this was 2008, so a long time ago. So when I was applying for REA Group, it sounded like that REA Group was going through a massive change process. That they actually weren't sure whether they would run tech themselves or they would outsource their tech. And so then there was some new executive leadership that came in. So a lot of my team members had been there from the older leadership, and I think that maybe that those leaders weren't empowering team members to be able to execute. And so at that point in time, I don't think REA Group was a really good employer. But when you join a place that is maybe not known as like a great employer, you've also got a chance to be able to, put your stamp on it and then see how you can improve things and make it a good place to work out. So I think my peer group, I think they'd just been beaten down by their managers and just thought, well, I can't do anything, and kind of a bit of stuck in a rut. And I think which does occur. So if you have a team that's long running, you can enter that phase of stagnation. So I think with me joining the team and being able to, use my novice view of REA Group and just trying to challenge the norms, kind of broke through some of that. And that combined with some new executive leadership that, didn't punish me for doing this change, but instead use me as a vehicle to demonstrate, this is what I love to see across REA Group, being able to take risks, but being educated in being able to take risks and having good thought processes about why you do something, and being able to challenge that up, I think was key to be able to driving some of the culture change. But culture is it's a big thing.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it recently too. I've seen in the past cultures where there might be a sort of wanting to not really trusting staff, or a bit of kind of control. If I'm going to control what you do, or you need to ask permission to do things. There's that, and it might give a sense of control for a period of time and safety. But then ultimately, you're also taking away accountability because you're not letting people think for themselves. Whereas in a way, your situation you mentioned where you were given the autonomy to just go in and do something, that's awesome because it's you get to use your creativity and decision making and problem solving, but it also makes you accountable because you're the one doing the thing. And I think it's probably a better outcome for everyone if more people are accountable but that also means letting go of the reins and letting them be accountable.
Yeah, if I put like a manager's hat on, it can be hard because when you're like managing or leading teams, you want to amplify yourself. So you want to empower people, but at the same time, you might have people that are just really green and new, and you're like, I'm scared about what you're going to do. So let me try and put some guardrails. But then equally, you might have someone that you're like, I just need to give this person as much autonomy as possible because I know that they're ready for the next step. They're super smart, and I want to have them. I want to give them as much. I want to make them feel good about their role and want to come to work and get a good outcome. So it's hard. Not every place also is good. There's some kind of crappy leaders out there. So, but at the same time, maybe my advice to someone who feels that their manager is kind of not giving them enough autonomy, I think you should feel empowered to just talk to your manager and say, I'd love to do this. I'd love you to give me a chance. And I think it's then incumbent on the manager to either allow that to occur or explain what other things that person needs to achieve before that they get that level of autonomy. So.
Yeah. And I would say if there is anyone out there who isn't able to have that conversation with their boss, that's not a great position to be in. You really need to be able to have conversations like that with your boss.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you can't have it with your boss, then maybe if you've got like a peer within your team, like talking to your peer and then having them help support you to talk to your boss, or at least having your peer give you some advice on how you can have that conversation.
I'm going to open a can of worms a little bit. You probably don't have enough time to explore it, but it gets me thinking about this other sort of thing I've been thinking about recently, which is how do you take a traditionally non-tech organization, and look, I'm going to generalize here and say that organizations who don't come from that tech-first background, maybe they've been around for a while, they tend to think about technology and systems with people involved as kind of deterministic things where if you put enough control around it, they're like the ITIL approach, enough control around a thing and stop the bad things from happening, you're going to be A-okay. Whereas we know that the complexity of the systems that we work in today are way too complex for that. It just doesn't work. So my sort of question is, you don't have to answer it, but do you have any thoughts on how do you introduce the resilience mindset and move away from that deterministic model into, well, just how can we work within the real complexity of our work and help people understand that?
Yeah, maybe to give you an on answer, like, 'cause recently I've been a cloud consultant, and so when I go into going into a workplace, try and get a bit of a model of what the org model looks like. So you're looking at like the org structure, who are the key people within the org, but then also who are the key influencers through the org. So there may be some key people within the org that aren't like managers or up in like in a specific change, but you know that if they've got like cultural authority across the organization. So if I'm looking into how I can drive change, I'm like looking at identifying who are the key people around me, who I can influence or who I can get together to be able to make a change. I'm looking to try and make a change by doing a small pilot and proving results to then see how I can scale this up. So everything all depends around like the specific scenario you're talking about. But for instance, if I want to do better release management and I want to more regular releases, I'll be looking at identifying like a target team or a pilot team to be able to who wants to try this out. I'll be wanting to bring on key cultural authority within the organization to be a part of this and get their buy-in and have them advocate that support. I'd also be looking for some detractors who say, no, this can't be done, because you want to be able to turn detractors and have them as promoters to the change that you want to embark on, or at least try and minimize some of their noise. You kind of want to prove out something, and then you want to amplify that, and you want to bring your detractors along the journey for you. So if you can turn a detractor into someone that promotes this thing, I think it makes it really easy to scale.
Yeah, I asked a very broad question, I understand, but but that is already very helpful. Like just getting ahead of detractors, and if you can convince them, then obviously you've got your argument quite sound, and the second thing is doing a pilot, something manageable where you can prove out an idea without having to change the whole org in one go.
There was a person who worked at REA Group. Her name was Whit Carley. She joined a long time ago, and she said to me, I cannot remember the specific quote she said to me, because I think I was like a detractor on a certain thing that she was pushing for. And she said to me, it's really easy to if you agree with something and being able to push it through, but it's really hard if you disagree with someone, but you join and then you make it work and prove yourself wrong, and bring some of the things that you're concerned about, but then have that influence a good outcome. So if there are detractors, I think bring them along the journey and say, hey, I'd love for you to be a part of this. I think you've got some good thought processes, and I think you'll be able to help ensure that we will address your concerns, but we also to help us get a really good outcome.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Well, probably out of time, but thank you so much, Trent, for coming on the show and sharing your experiences. I think it's a fantastic story. I feel like there's a whole another conversation that we could probably have in the future around that. Getting the word of resilience out in an organization who isn't used to that kind of thinking. But we go to the future if you're be willing to come back, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So thanks again, and everyone else. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all next time.
See you.